it's time to assess the labor leaders' negotiating skills. The final scores are in, as many would say. Now, after months of negotiations, the Nigerian government and labor leaders have reached an agreement on a new minimum wage of 70,000 naira. The agreed upon amount of 70,000 naira falls short of the labor leaders' initial demands of 250,000 naira. However, it is a 133% increase from the previous 30,000 naira minimum wage.
According to the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaero, labor leaders accepted the 70,000 naira offer because President Tinubu promised to review the national minimum wage law every 3 years and find ways to assist the private sector and the subnationals to pay their workers. Mixed reactions have met the agreement, with some viewing it as a compromise, while others believe it does not go far enough in addressing the needs of Nigerian workers. We're joined to discuss this further this morning by the NLC PRO Lagos State Council, Ismail Ishola Adejumo. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning for having me on our ride this morning.
All right. Before we get into the conversation, let's take a look at this video.
In terms of the amount of 70,000 happen to be where we are now. So now, but the good thing about it is that we will not wait for another 5 years to come and review. Rather than accepting on a figure that you wait for 5 years, it's like you have to now negotiate even 2 times within 5 years with a view to going up.
Then made a pronouncement of 70,000 naira that by next week that they should put finishing touches and do the transmission to the National Assembly. But why this became a catch, because we from organized labor, we have been pushing that the issue of 5 years review is too much. With also the caveat that this is going to be done every 3 years, 3 years, the next review will be 3 years. And after that pronouncement, we from labor just has been said that, well, we have received what the president has promised.
All right. You've seen the clip by the organized labor stating why they have accepted the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Ismail Ishola Adejumo is here with us. He's the NLC PRO Lagos State Council. Some people on social media have said that the NLC has folded. I mean, it's a social media slang, but what they're saying in essence is that if the NLC knew that it was going to accept 70,000 naira after all this while, that they should have just accepted it much earlier and saved Nigerians the stress and emotional turmoil of the strikes back and forth. What do you say in response to this?
Thank you very much. I want to start on a note of saluting our leaders. At this point is the worst time to be a union leader in Nigeria, considering the current the government leadership and the masses, or so to say, the working people who seems not to understand the heat that is involved in the kitchen where we are cooking this minimum wage. I would
Mr. Adejumo, we seem to be struggling with the connection this morning. I'm hoping that you can reconnect with us and continue this conversation this morning. Seems to be a problem with the network at your end. But, for those of us who are just joining Breakfast Central, we're talking about the new national minimum wage of 70,000 naira and why the NLC and other labor unions have, agreed with the federal government 70,000 naira. Of course, Olive initially just asked, if that was going to be agreed, why did we waste our time so long? Why didn't NLC even agree with 62,000 naira, which was the initial offer by the federal government, if you remember? Because there's not very much difference between 62 and 70. Mr. Adejumo, if you can hear us, kindly go ahead.
I'm with you. I was on a part to answer your question. And I said I want to give a quick background to what led to this stage.
All right.
When we proposed 615, it was like a mirage. People were saying it's too much, this is that. And we know the mindset of the government. We know where they are heading to. I would give a kudos to the governor of Edo State, who have promptly, give a kind of a baseline where government now eventually arrive at. But be that as it may, we have not wasted anybody's time. Negotiation in industrial relation can take time based on the subject matter at hand. The issue of minimum wage is a matter of law. The Mr. President have already given a seal to what we are saying, that, okay, it cannot go beyond 70,000, except if it will increase minimum fuel pump price again. That was what the leadership reported to the leader, to the Congress. Because the first consultation with the Mr. President, that was the proposal that if you allow me to pay 250,000, then there will be another fuel increase, which will bring unto hardship to all Nigerians, not only the working people of Nigeria. Everybody will suffer it. We know the pains and the agony that we are going through as a result of the first subsidy removal, which we are still battling with. So to now overstretch the battle and will not become an endless battle, so the leader have to retreat and say, okay, let's take what is available for now as Oliver Twist. And the take home now is that the year of review has been reduced from 5 to at least 3 years based on the inflation rate. So within 3 years now, before the end of the first term of this administration, we will be on the table again to look at the card. And from there, we take it up. If the inflation has reduced to bring about happiness to Nigeria, then everybody will say, okay, yes, we are good to go. But if the inflation is still on the high side, at any point in time, the leadership will call for a review. That's what our leader have said. And there's nothing short of that. There's nothing different that I want to say. We concur with them. We salute their doggedness, their resilience, their spirit of patriotism, not to bring unto hardship to Nigeria by conceding that, okay, his increase you want to 250 rather than having 250, and Nigerians are suffering. So we have sacrificed ourselves as the labor, the working people, because the minimum wage is not only for the people in the public service. That is the erroneous impression that most people in the public are having. It's the least pay for the least pay worker, both in the public and private. Once it becomes a law, any employer of labor in Nigeria that employ people above 25 is obligated to pay 70,000 if it becomes a law.
All right, Mr. Adejumo, can you hold on? Just to be clear, when Labour or the NLC was putting forward the 250,000 naira demand, some of these things that you're mentioning were clearly stated back then, but you still held your ground and said that that's a figure that you wanted. So when did it change? And how did you suddenly just accept 70,000 naira as fair enough?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I told you in industrial relations there are mechanisms for negotiation. People need to be knowledgeable about how negotiation is conducted. You understand? We don't go to negotiation with a very dogmatic mind, with a fixed mind. You look at all the parameters and the indices on the table, and the likelihood of job loss for our members. We will not allow or accept any injury, because in labor circle, we say injury to one is injury to all. Most people are losing job, especially in the private sector. And now it's cascading down to the public sector. How will we now be dogmatic and say, okay, it is 250 or nothing, and the government, okay, we will pay, and they will go about a mass retrenchment of workers when we are contending that there is need for job creation. So that is high level of insensitivity, will it be? But we will never.
Are you then saying that
what we are looking at is to sustain the living of Nigeria? We know this is not a minimum wage, a living wage. Even it's not even close to the benchmark as.
Yeah. So what I'm asking, so are you then saying that all the while? Hold on. Are you then saying that all the while that you were putting forward 250,000 and those figures, you always knew that those figures were, unrealistic? Is that what you're saying?
Not at all. It's highly realistic because we gave a breakdown of what constitutes 250. Even 250 is still a factory minimum wage standard. What would have been a living wage standard would have been that 615, because you need to cater for your transportation, the feeding of your family, your accommodation, the school fees of your children, utility, and so many other needs of workers. Will you just be a worker and take a peanut and that cannot take you home?
So how do you then defend 70,000 naira? You've accepted it. So how do you defend it? A bag of rice is currently about 100,000 naira. Bag of tomatoes is about the same thing. So how do you defend 70,000 naira to your to those in the labor union across the country?
That is why I said it's a going concern. At this point, the government have stopped paying wage award. We know what we call it now, 35,000 to support the initial 30,000, which is about 65,000 naira. You understand? Government have stopped since March, and they are stretching it. People are suffering. They are complaining. Our members are complaining that they cannot survive. And how long are we going to be dragging? It is the mindset of the government that will determine whatever we are going to do. They are the employer. So do you want us to throw everybody to be vulnerable of job loss? So we have to be sensitive at this point to retreat and take what is available, and we are Oliver Twist. We always come for more.
So
and
do you have...
looking at the president have also promised, hold on, the president have also promised that is going to support, because the people who are the real problem of Nigeria are the governors and the organized private sector who are not sincere. Since they removed the subsidy, they have been getting triple allocation to the state and local government. So also the people in the private sector have jacked up their price of commodity. But this is not reflecting the level of workers. It's only workers that have a fixed wage that has not been increased. So now we are battling for us to have a sustainable wage that will commensurate with the living standard. The government the government at the subnational level and the organized private sector are becoming a clog in the wheel of progress. I know if it is not for them, Mr. President will have agreed to our 3-digit threshold, which is something from 100,000 and above. But now he's also promising that he needs to look for ways and means to assist them through the CNG buses that they are going to introduce now, which was one of our initial agreement with Mr. President, that will bring about the cost of transportation. That will be all over for everybody. And also, you also look for ways maybe to give them a kind of intervention fund to ameliorate, because some governors now, what they give priority is those that are lost risk. Their own is sustainable, is affordable for them, but to pay a reasonable standard minimum wage is not sustainable. So instead of them, for us to allow them to throw mass worker into job loss, we never do that. That's why we will retreat. Okay. It's not over until it is over. It's a going concern.
Are there any regrets from the NLC on how this has been handled?
Mindset. The Nigerians of today, we know how everybody.
No regret whatsoever.
No regret from the leadership. We have to salute our leaders. They have been very,
so no regrets on how the matter has been handled so far. Nothing you feel like the labor unions could have done differently.
We have put all our machinery in place to get this achieved. But the government is adamant.
All right.
Once government is adamant, the consequence with that, okay, you want this. And I've told you, if let's say, for instance, we agree and we insist on 250, and President says, okay, no problem, we'll give you 250, and the price of petrol, as they are being canvassed now, they are canvassing it to us at the negotiation table that go to Cameroon, go to Benin Republic, go and see the cost of petrol is about over 1,500 to 2,000. Should we allow that to happen in Nigeria? With the current situation we have found ourselves, even now the price regime is not stable. Some places they are selling 800, some are selling 900, some are selling 700, some as again the standard rate.
So you're saying the government's argument,
an economy that is petrodollar.
Yeah,
yes,
so the government's argument
is the problem, because
so the government's argument from your deliberations is that if they increase the minimum wage.
What do you say?
I'm saying, so the government's argument from your negotiations is that if they increase the minimum wage to 150 or 250,000 naira, that will have, mean that they have to increase the price of petrol. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is the position. As at the time, the president of the Congress, the two Labour Center leaders met with the president last week. That was what was reported at the meeting.
Why would the price of...
If you guys want 250,
yeah,
we'll give you, but you allow the government to raise the price again. And that will inflict an untold hardship to the general Nigeria, the masses of
What's the explanation?
Beyond the working people.
What's the explanation behind increasing the price of petrol?
The explanation is that the neighboring country price regime is still very high as against our own. And that was the initial argument they are conversing, that there is a country along the borderline to take petrol that is relatively cheap here to other countries to go and sell.
All right.
In what quantity?
And now,
this is where we are. We have
Mr.
to be
Adejumo,
reasonable and look at the interests of generality of Nigerians. So if petrol should be increased by, as been proposed, from this current 800, 700 regime that we are in now to about, let's say 1,005 or 2,000, many private companies will follow.
Mr. Adejumo, we have to go now, but we thank you for joining us. We hope that the rest of the Nigerian community, or the rest of the Nigerian workers, I beg your pardon, will maybe be warm and excited about this, and we'll see how it goes, and hope that in the next 3 years, the government will review as promised. Thank you for your time with us.
Yes.